Hello, welcome to Simon on the Sofa. I'm here today with somebody I think, well, I always say that really, but I think you're going to seriously enjoy this conversation, and more importantly, bringing this wonderful woman into your awareness, Polly Higgins, who is really, I think when I first see Polly, when I first see you, it was at the talk with Charles Eisenstein, and I was like, oh, but I said to Anna as well, I was like, Polly, oh, she's just love. She's like radiating love, It's like I just got this like really wonderful vibe from you. So I want to just welcome Polly. So hello, Polly, you're here.
Hello, Simon. Great to be here.
And I filmed that conversation with you and Charles. Yeah, and I just had that sense, that just real sense of somebody who's just like really, and it was grounded in herself, standing for something so real and authentic, and the way that you were within yourself, I just said, here's a woman that's just like, oozing love for me. And I remember saying to my partner Anna as well, and I was like, yes, and it's great to see women out there like that, because the whole, women being in that place. So I think, how the sofa works is it's just wonderful to have you here and to take some time out of your schedule to have a conversation. And I'd like to, I don't know what, for me it's whatever's, you're welcome to just share whatever's coming up for you in this moment around, I suppose, love, and also we're going to talk about Ecocide, definitely, of course, because I know that's the embodiment of what you're expressing right now, so yeah.
Well, thank you. This is great. I love open space. I've been kind of playing around with this idea of how the new world is moving very much from Chronos to Kairos. Chronos is timekeeping from the watch, ancient Greek word for timekeeping. But Kairos is actually, it's about space creating, and how you get away from being governed by the tick-tock, tick-tock-tock of the clock, where we never have enough time, to actually taking a moment in time and allowing it to open up so that something creative can come through, and letting go of our tension and concerns that we have and our anxieties to time keep. Because actually what I've discovered is that true creativity happens in a moment, and suddenly it flourishes, it opens out. And it's got absolutely nothing to do with ancient Chronos timekeeping. It's got far more to do with Kairos, where you open up the space for the creativity to emerge.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
And conversations are a very important part of this. Something that I really enjoy when, getting away from old world conference style, where you have someone on a platform just talking at you, and moving more towards world cafe conversation style, where it's about putting out a question and allowing the collective consciousness to emerge around that, those that are sitting around a table or a group of tables, to start playing around with what they feel could be the answer to a question that's put forward. And my life has been very governed by powerful questions that I've asked myself.
Yeah, I like that. There was funny you mentioned that. I watched the talk recently about where good ideas are spread on TED. I don't know if you've seen that one. And he mentioned about that real ideas come not just like me and you sitting down and going, right, we have to crack something, but actually come out of the collective vibration of, like you just said, so many people in the room. And actually he described something really wonderful, that also when an idea or an inspiration or something creative comes through, it's also been emerging and coming and birthing and cultivating for some time. That's how he described it. And then like when you're in these environments or in that space that you say, then it goes, I can imagine it's like, I got space to come through,
Completely. I really get that. And especially because nobody has ownership over a good idea. It's something that is given birth through a person at a given time, but it's something that can then sometimes die away and then pop up elsewhere. And I know that myself, because I've proposed here a very big idea, a law of ecocide. And when I did that, I actually didn't know that an international law of ecocide had already been proposed back in 1972 at the Stockholm conference. And 7,000 people had marched out in the streets. But because there was no Google then, no Facebook, this has been lost in the kind of the annals of time. And for it then to re-emerge in the mid-80s, when there was the drafting of documents, a very important document, which was to codify the existing crimes against peace, genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and the fourth one, crimes of aggression, the run-up to our war. Ecocide was drafted as well. So for 11 years, hundreds, if not thousands, of special UN rapporteurs, lawyers, UN representatives, governmental representatives from all countries of the world were involved in the drafting of a law of ecocide for 11 years. Now, it was removed at the last minute, and it kind of dropped out of our collective consciousness because it was behind closed doors. We didn't know about it. But when I came along 15 years later and said, actually, here I am proposing an international law of ecocide, without knowing that this history was even there, it really made me wake up when a journalist got in touch to ask for my comments on this and say, gosh, isn't that fantastic? It just shows the power of a good idea. If it's not going to happen over there, it'll come out over here and here and here again.
What is it that? It's a bit like mint. Have you ever seen mint grow?
Yes.
In the back of our house, my mum had a garden and it had concrete, and this mint kept coming through. And sometimes, at times she'd be like, "Oh, that mint's coming in. So much mint." We'd bring a little bit in, but it was too much. And then they'll go out, cut it, pull it up, and then it just come again. It's coming through.
Sprouts.
I like that.
Boom.
Yeah.
Same with the law
which is actually beautiful. Well, again, if we use the example of mint, nature. That natural growth and ecocide, what you're standing for and what you're bringing into the awareness. I mean, we're talking about nature, the planet, you know, the natural birth of who we are and what we are and so on, the essence of all that. I mean, if that doesn't deserve a voice, what does? You know, and I think that's when I listen to your talk, and I've listened to a couple of other talks that you've done, the TED Talk and so on. I think that's I really feel that. And maybe that's the love that I'm feeling as well, because it's like I feel that you're the planet talking, and I know there's loads of other people and there's other people doing it, and like you said, it's been coming through, and like you said, you're not claiming that, but it is a time for me at the moment where, I could say the truth will out, but the planet's talking. It's like it's saying, look, this needs to change, and are we gonna look at it? And I think that's what you're doing. You're really shining a light on that, just to say, look, guys.
Yes, and I do see myself very much in the role of being a voice for the earth, and by bringing forth an international law that fundamentally starts from a premise of first do no harm, and really is a recognition of the earth's right to life, to close the door to mass damage and destruction, is something that is a very powerful narrative. I know that. Well, I know that because there's so much controversy around it as well in some circles. But that's the thing. It's not about shying away from something that does sometimes court controversy. Sometimes I see this as being like a lighthouse and standing up and shining my light on what I believe to be my truth, really, in all of this. And this is the wonderful thing, the storm will rage all around, but ultimately at the end of the day, the storm will die down and the new dawn comes and the lighthouse is still there. And I really do think this is about not just myself, but many, many others standing up and speaking out as voices for the earth. And very soon, with so many people acting as powerful light bearers, really, in all of this, that very soon we move from the dark into the light, and that understanding and that deep wisdom. And indeed, what I'm saying is nothing new within the context of indigenous wisdom or Buddhist wisdom. There are many, many people from many cultures throughout the world who really engage on the whole idea of the whole emergence of a whole new body of earth law here that really respects the earth's right to life in a big way. And this is something that is a dialogue that's not going to go away. It will continue to emerge and evolve as time goes on as well.
Yeah, and beyond our time as well.
Yes.
That's the beautiful thing,
Absolutely.
isn't it? It's a universal voice.
Yes, and it's a legacy.
Yeah.
It's about us creating a legacy for future generations as well, so that they can take it to the next level, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. And it's not about it's also not about the earth dynamic. I mean, when we realise that we are the earth, we are connected to it and not separate from. you know, this is about us, the
Yes.
planet. You know, and I don't mean that from an egocentric place. I mean, it's like the planet's our home. We're on here, and you know, something that I was pondering today. Actually, I was going to, you know, just one sort of question I was going to say. Okay, when I'm sitting with Polly, I will ask is that this idea that when you love yourself, I sort of had this idea that when somebody really loves themselves or has consideration for themselves, whatever that might look like. For me, anyway, when that changed, I naturally opened up to totally loving nature and being concerned about, you know, the deforestation and, you know, all the other things that were going on. It just seemingly that opened. It was like, well, yeah, hold up, that's going on over there, and that affects me to some extent. So I'm sort of like curious, you know, in terms of, you know, I know you've met many people, but it's sort of common sense, but it's also like, as you sort of love yourself, you sort of seemingly have this bigger connection to the planet. What do you feel from that perspective? Is that something, because you was going down one path, weren't you? And then you're sort of like taken all your knowledge and gone, well, hold up, I'm an earth lawyer now, you know, for example.
Yeah, this is really interesting, because also, you know, when I first started getting out there and speaking about how fundamentally law had created a lot of the problems we have here by prioritising property and ownership and commoditising the earth, really, so that we could buy, sell, use and abuse. And that really what was underpinning it was viewing the earth as a thing. You know, so we just put a price tag on it, we impose a value, and that's it. We can do whatever we like with it. And it seemed to me that we were using law in a very destructive way. It was resulting in mass damage and destruction rather than it resulting in life-affirming, nourishing practices. And that if we fundamentally shifted our own view to viewing the earth as a living being, then what we do is it comes from a very different place. It doesn't come from the head, it comes from the heart. It comes from a position of deep care. And I understood, and that was very born of my own deep caring for what I saw was playing out here, and bringing my own unique skills as a lawyer into bearing and saying, okay, we're using law in the wrong way here. The end result is very destructive here, and we need to put in place new laws that can create life-affirming practices. And where do we start at the very top end? Well, that's clearly an international law of ecocide to protect the earth's right to life. But what was very interesting was when I first started kind of engaging on how do we create what's known as a legal duty of care for the earth, I was very angry and very self-defensive about what was going on, very defensive about it, and I discovered that I had to let that go. That anger is very constructive energy if it's used constructively. If you take it and you literally allow it to go somewhere constructive, but if you don't and you let it spiral downwards, inwards, it becomes very destructive. And likewise with fear, it can really eat you. And of course being defensive comes from a place of fear.
Of course.
And I really had to let go of my attachment to my own anger and fear. It was an attachment, it was serving me in some way. So the realization that in a way I had to undergo my own kind of spiritual journey of addressing my own issues so that I could be free to speak from a place of love, not hate, not anger. And I see this a lot with activists, that often what happens is if you see something you don't like, a violence, and you come to it violently with anger, then violence meeting violence does not work. In fact, what it does is it serves to entrench the views on either sides. But if you can come into that space with love, it can actually dissolve, and you can create something that is a value that's far greater than either parts. It can create something far greater altogether.
Yeah.
It's very powerful.
Yeah, that's an alchemical transmutation.
It is.
Transmuting it into something beyond what we could even imagine at that point.
Yes. So this for me was also about letting go of blame and judgment, and hence I'm very interested in restorative justice. I ultimately don't believe that it's a constructive thing to do is to lock lots of people up. That doesn't serve anyone very good purpose at all. But how we can actually bring to the table restorative justice processes whereby those who must take responsibility, this is about being held to account, But giving that space, that avenue to go in a very different direction, rather than punishing, I actually saying, okay, we know that, you know, here we have good people working in a system that is creating really destructive outcomes, but we want to create a space now so that you can put your good skills to best use, so that the healing really can begin, actually.
Yeah. So that's a completely different view on it, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is an unconditional, compassionate view. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you see what I mean? Because it's instantly,
the aspiration to do that, without a doubt.
It's an instantly
Yes.
looking at every aspect from not judging. So not saying you've done wrong, you did it. It's like, it's almost forgive them for not what they do. And it's like, so from that place, rather than just shut you off, lock you off, how can we move beyond that?
Yeah.
It's showing up without, like you beautifully described, attachment to beliefs or ideas, concepts or theories, but actually showing up and going, right, this is the deal, this is where we are, how can we resolve together?
Exactly.
That's wonderful. I mean that's a transformation of the whole, let alone that's a transformation of the whole of our species, psychological way of functioning.
Yes, it is.
Isn't it? I love that.
And it's also, I'm very driven by permaculture principles, the whole idea that the problem can become the solution.
Yeah.
So it's transmuting that energy from being destructive into being constructive. And that really is, you know, that's where the magic lies, when you can take energy and literally harness it so that it can transmute to something greater instead. And
giving the individual the awareness that they have that power.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, just that in itself.
Yes.
To say, look, you are part of this ever evolving, unfolding, wonderful life force energy that has created this, and it seems from awareness there's a little bit of like, you know, whatever, it is what it is again, but now look, if we come together from this place, look what we can explore.
Precisely.
That's just that, you know, that's wonderful. That's resolved. So and you, because I know you teach as well, because you do, my friend said he was at the Shoemaker College coming down to see you at one of the things. So you also, is this like, because this is like, we're talking here, this is a curriculum of new way of thinking. This is new thinking.
Yeah, this is very much about earth democracy.
Earth democracy, yeah. I love
Earth law is just part of it.
Yeah, earth law, because it's all going to have different fragments of what needs to be done, isn't it, in the sections. So this is earth democracy as well. So you're sort of spearheading that as well. Is there a group of you, or is that just your philosophy that you're sort of birthing through? Well,
in fact, there are many people who are engaging in this from many different angles, and Vandana Shiva's written a wonderful book on earth democracy.
I filmed them, Vandana Shiva and Satish Kumar, recently in conversation. So yeah, sorry, continue. And them two together, they're just like, they're so awesome. Yeah.
And many people are in this space, lawyers and non-lawyers as well. So there's a whole kind of new, this is about us finding new language, and it's something that Charles Eisenstein said that really rang true with me in his TEDx talk he gave at Whitechapel, same time as me. And he said, you know, sometimes we are criticised for singing to the choir, but actually isn't this about us as the choir learning new songs and singing them so well that others want to join in too? And I think that's absolutely right. It is about us learning the new songs, discovering the new language, co-creating the new terms of engagement, and finding, you know, the new avenues and new paths to take us into the new place. So that others then get to a point that they feel comfortable to join and follow that path.
And feel confident.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Overcome, like you said, I always use the term make fear your friend as opposed to running away from it and moving into protection. You know, but actually look at what the fear is pointing to. So rather than going, oh, it's all destruction, the planet's ending, it's all over, it's like, no, look at what is being sung. I love the way Charles describes things as well. It's so articulately beautiful. If you're watching this one as well, Charles, you know I love you. Polly does too. But and also for you guys watching, Charles Eisenstein, if you haven't seen his talk, please watch that talk, because and look at his book as well, Sacred Economics and the Ascent of Humanity. So just throwing that in there as always. Because these are the seeds to follow and to look at, to even to get a deeper understanding of that language that you're talking about. Because it is, I always say as well, it's like when somebody has to learn a new language. You know, you don't learn a new language. I'm English through and through, so it's like, you know, English are arrogant and everyone should speak English, you know, nobody learning language. But you can imagine my partner's Swedish, I can't even say her name correctly, you know. So it's like, you know, so when I talk about this transparent communication, conscious awareness, you know, Earth democracy, that's my new one now. I'm going to have that one as well, okay? Share that to the world. Is we're talking about learning a new language. And if anybody's out there listened, or if you, I don't know if you speak another language, but that takes dedication, commitment, engagement, you know, seeing how it works, meeting with other people to see it, and that's what I feel is also required. So it's a real personal choice, isn't it?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
You know, it's a personal commitment to go, I want to explore this.
Yeah. Without a doubt. I had a little 9-year-old girl who came to hear me speak in New Zealand, and she came up afterwards and she said, "So, can you speak Earthish?"
I love children so much.
And I said, "Well, I'm learning." And I asked her, "Can you?" And she said, "Oh, yes. Yes, I can." And so we had a wonderful conversation, and you know, she was so in tune with the earth as children can be. That, you know, it's a kind of natural wisdom in a way that we tend to lose as we grow older. So maybe in a way what we're doing is getting back to that childlike state of being able to speak Earthish fluently. Yeah.
I love that, Earthish. I always say children are here to teach us.
Yeah.
It's nothing more, is it? So if we can just stop thinking we're trying to teach them something, come out of our, you know, indoctrinated idea that we know something to teach them, and just listen to them. Yeah, just hang out with them a little bit more, and just listen to what they've got to share. And it always I get a warm feeling when you said that go through my body. Is that I always get that nice. Recently, I don't know if you see that TED talk of that guy, that child. How old was he? I can't remember how old he was. I think he's about 10 or 11, talking about like farming and how to, you know, and this wisdom that he was sharing through. And he was on TED, and you know, you got like these teenagers that got so much knowledge. And when I see that, you know, whatever age, you know, I think, wow, that instills a lot of hope and a lot of confidence, you know, in that this, you know, we are. There's a shift occurring, you know, and if we don't resist it, it really is flowering on, you know, in every place. I read a book recently by, I'm reading a book by, I forget his name now, James Lovelock. What's his name? James Lovelock. And it's called The Revenge of Gaia. Yes. Have you read that one? Yeah, you've had a little exploration of that. So I'm reading that one, and you know, it's that whole idea that he was talking about, you know, that to some extent there's no necessarily helping the planet, as it were. The planet's gonna, you know, it's a word he used, like integrate and resolve itself, you know, depending on what's going on and so on. But he, you know, he sort of got where I'm up to. He sort of got that idea of like, well, you know, it's sort of gone past the point of you know, no return. So in along the lines of like, you know, actually helping the planet. Or, you know, helping us move out of the sort of depths that we've got into. What comes up for you when I say that, you know, because I mean, I'm ever optimist, but not to create fear from that place, because to some extent that can create fear. It's like the planet's going to end. But I often ask the question, well, how do we even really know, you know? So we do a lot of tests and a lot of, you know, we do a lot of things, and then it seems whenever science finds something or some other place finds something, the universe goes, pew, pew, you didn't think of that one, did you? Do you know what I mean? It's like there's sometimes whenever I listen to, like even when I listen to Bruce Lipton talk or Tom Campbell, and you know, and they've been studying this stuff for years, and I mean, this, you know, this blows my mind, and they're very much like, yeah, well, you know, for 13 years we thought we understood what was actually happening, you know, the genes, the DNA, and the planet, and it functions like this, and then then we found this little molecule that actually rubbished the whole of that 15-year study, you know. So in terms of like, you know, Ecocide and actually, you know, us really coming into the connection of the planet, do you feel that's just that's happening? That's happening regardless. There's no, it's like the Malcolm Gladwell's tipping point. There's no stopping it now.
Well, here's the thing. I think this is the most amazing time to be alive in the whole history of civilization. Yeah, we have tipped, absolutely. We've tipped into a new world. And part of that new world is ending the era of ecocide, where we do actually I face our shadow self and say, no longer are we going to destroy. Just because we've gotten to a stage where we now know and we have the evidence that we've caused mass damage and destruction doesn't get us off the hook. Doesn't mean that we have license to kill ad infinitum. No, we don't. We have accrued the silent rights to destroy, to pillage our lands. And now we have the knowledge that that doesn't work to do that. So it's incumbent upon us to work out what the new terms of engagement are in the new world. And that does require new ways of doing things. And yes, I think we have tipped. I think we have very definitely tipped out of a world that puts destruction forward as a completely normative and a way of doing things where we can make lots of money out of destroying. And we've tipped into a world where we're now shifting into an era where there is no ecocide. Yeah. It's not going to happen immediately,
of course,
but we are moving in that direction. A law of ecocide obviously plays part of that. It's a very big bridge to take us to a world that is life affirming rather than life destroying. But for me, this is fine.
Yeah.
You know, this is year one of the new world.
Yeah.
So
it's early stages.
Yeah, but we're on that path.
Yeah.
And we're very definitely on that path.
Yeah.
And the thing is, more and more people are stepping on that path every single day.
So many. It's fast as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's fast. It's so
fast and fast.
The amount of content that's just coming out now as well, of people that's sharing videos, content, organisations, websites. You know, it's just like, it really, you can feel it, can't you?
Yeah, it's palpable.
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's palpable, totally.
And everywhere I am in the world, when I'm speaking, more and more people turning up and doing great things within their own communities to fundamentally make the world a better place, whether or not it's permaculture or local businesses that are focusing on, for instance, renewable energies, or teaching kids about the environment, to care for the earth. Yeah. This is a whole new way of and world engagement.
Yeah, totally.
It's something massive has shifted. Yeah. I do believe that, and I do feel it. The very fact that the whole narrative around earth jurisprudence 5 years ago was a completely niche corner for a few nutty lawyers, whereas now the idea of earth law, ecocide, earth rights, and there's going to be a whole new body of other laws around that, is growing and growing and growing, and it won't stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
It will continue to evolve. And it's a collective engagement. It's not just me. Yes, I've had a part in this, but many others will take up the mantle and take it further forward again and again and again.
Which are anyway, aren't they? Because
yes.
even in the 2 years, just for the little organisation that you've birthed, and it's growing, at a good rate.
Yes.
I remember coming to your yearly gathering, and you were, just the other people that jumped on board, didn't they, in different countries?
Yes.
It was just like, yes, I'll take this, and we're going to create that.
Absolutely.
Go into schools and so on. So that's how a movement unfolds anyway, isn't it? It's you sort of instigate something and then let it roll.
Yeah.
It's interesting as well around law for me, because sometimes I've always asked the question of the only thing that there's humans try to control everything for whatever reason, and again it is what it is in society. But I've always asked, at what point it was like that we could even say that we can do that and we can do that, and there's a law there and that there, and you can't do that and you should do that. Do you know what I mean? How rules even come together. Mm-hmm. And I remember being with you when we met up one Sunday, and you shared about that. You may remember it when I say this. Is that a judge holding space as a community person, but not from a place of dictating. Do you remember? Can you remember the term you used?
Well, I'm very interested in the evolution of law itself, and how I think there's space here to kind of fundamentally reinvent how we engage with law. And the word lawyer actually means to heal the community's woes.
Right. Yes, exactly.
So, and I see this as healing the earth community's woes. And when you follow down that rabbit hole of inquiry, it kind of takes you to a place where judgment is no longer required. that you come to a place of trust rather than command and control, where individuals individually and collectively take responsibility for their actions and coming from a very different place. They're actually coming from a place of caring for life itself, deep caring love for life. And when that happens, then in fact the need for written laws kind of falls away. The need for courts falls away as well, and certainly the need for prisons should fall away. So then how do we create restorative justice circles within communities rather than having courtrooms where you have judges giving judgment? How do we move towards a space that's really about, you know, putting in place processes and assistance for those that have forgotten, you know, that really there's something greater at play here, and have forgotten their ability to be part of that. This is something. These are ideas that, you know, are beginning to,
they're out there, aren't they? They're bubbling.
Seeding them out. They're bubbling underneath the surface. At a time when the criminal justice system is struggling very hard to deal with locking more and more people up all the time, and we have overfull prisons, and we don't have the money, and governments are trying to create more and more laws to prevent people from doing more and more, and it's all about command and control and preventing, and stopping, and ownership and property, and you have no right, you have no control over this, and how actually there's an opportunity really to, the first bridge is to actually create laws that are coming from a very different place, that come from fundamentally intrinsic value driven. So life is sacred, the interconnectedness of life itself, we are all one, and love of life, love of self. And when we come from that point, then new laws act as bridges to take us to that place where one day, my dream is a world where we don't need written law at all. And it will come. It may not be in my lifetime, but it will come. I know that.
I love that dream.
Yeah.
Just sit with that dream for a minute. What a dream.
Yeah.
So what I love about it is the way that you express it and the way that you point it out. I mean, I can clearly see how that could happen.
Yeah.
You know, I can feel that. But I also am aware that I have shifted my perception. I don't say take away actually. Something has flown through me and shifted my worldview, shifted my value system, shifted the way that I perceive, even looking at you now and having this wonderful experience. You know, people may think that it's just two human beings sitting here. I don't see two human beings sitting here. I'm seeing, like, you know, the bigger, you know, like you said, the connection to the whole of, like, the wonder that I'm just in. And I know that also coming from the journey that I've been on, I also know people that, you know, when you even mention that this is possible, it's like it's also so very closed off. Yeah. So there is also, you said a bridge, but there's also a way that what I like and again, I don't even think we even need to worry about this actually, even as I'm saying it. It doesn't even need to be worried. It's actually taken care of. Because I was just going to say, you know, a way to actually have that in place, you know, like a curriculum or a way that people can, but actually it's just taken care of. It's happening anyway, because I never did any, you know, curriculum or needed to do anything. It's just it unfolded through me, and here I am, and I'm just continuing on that path. And, you know, what you're talking about seems the norm, and permaculture seems the norm, and all this other stuff seems the norm. So, and if you said that 9-year-old said she's speaking Earthish, I mean, what have we got to worry about, really? Do you see what I mean? So rather than go into, like, how it can be done, I don't think we need to know the how. If anything, it's just surrendering to that, surrendering to, you know, the unknown, isn't it?
Well, yes and no. I mean, for me, there's definitely that sense of, you know, the bigger picture and the vision of a better world, without a doubt. But it's also being very much open to allowing myself to take the steps and open into those spaces of opportunity that come forth as a result of it. I do think it's incumbent upon us to take action. And each of us have a role, and we have a choice in life as to whether or not we step into a role and become voices for the earth, a voice of the earth, actually, more accurately. Or we can sit back and just observe as things unfold. But it's up to us. Do we want to sit back, or do we want to step onto the stage of life and co-create that world and be participants in that process? And of course, that's stepping into the unknown. And you know, that's the step. That the first step's always the most difficult, the most challenging, the most scary. But to put trust in a process that actually allows you to embark on the greatest adventure of your life. Because actually, by putting out an intent out there to be a voice of the earth, to dare to be great, actually, in a way, it opens up the opportunities that will come forth, because you set out an intent. The energy that arrives around that then brings you life's opportunities to exercise, flex that muscle that hasn't otherwise been put into good use. And of course, you know, it's like anything, when you're becoming fit, you know, it can be painful. You can discover that actually running, you know, that marathons it can take a bit of doing, and it needs a bit of practice, it needs a bit of training to get those muscles to move on from being just creaky. So this is really about us being kind of mentally and spiritually fit, as well as sort of physically fit, to really be participants in this new world. And this is really about you know, our highest vision of the highest version of what we can be in service. And when we do that, it opens us up to amazing opportunities to find different ways of messaging, of engaging in what that dialogue is, to seed it, to cross-fertilize and pollinate it, to use terms that you hear here and seed it out there, and you know, other things come forward. It becomes one huge global conversation that's fundamentally shifted away from an isolationist position. For me, it's kind of like moving away from standing in a room where you're dancing all by yourself to actually having lots and lots of people dancing with you and holding hands. But you're no longer in a room. It actually crosses all boundaries. It's right across the world. And everyone begins to join into the dance. And it really is about the dance of life, actually, here. To the new music that we're co-creating.
The music of your heart.
Yes, exactly right. Beautifully said.
The music of your heart,
Yes.
I was in the dance then. I'm in the dance now, you know. You know, this, you know, because this is for me is the dance.
Of course it is.
You know, it's like, you know, and I love the 5 rhythms and Gabriella Roth, who created the 5 rhythms, and you know, and her thing was as well that, you know, she spoke of that, you know, another really powerful voice and a powerful woman that has brought through so much of that, you know, that dance. It's just like, that's what she's like, bring the dance. Dance, you know, dance the flow, dance the staccato, dance the chaos, you know what I mean? Just dance it all, dance the silence, just, you know, and be with it. And I think that is really what you're saying there. Go on, please. Something's coming through.
Well, I've been learning tango dancing over the last few months, and this is really for me learning a new dance. It's because you have a physical connection with another person, you know, male to female, and learning to trust another person to guide and to lead you on this new dance, and learning the new steps, but also learning about the space between, and it's deep listening. There are subtle signals that are given so that you know when to move, in what direction. And it's about it's understanding our relationship, not just to the other person, but to the floor, to the walls, to the energy around. And if you see a milonga of some really wonderful tango dancers, it is truly remarkable. It's a beautiful weave of many people dancing. It's incredibly complex, and yet there's great harmony, because there's an understanding of the two together, but then an understanding of the people around them as well, so that everyone can move without bumping into each other. And it's like a beautiful pattern. So tango for me has been a really wonderful way of understanding our engagement with life and how relational it is. You know, we don't work in isolation, we work in relation to those we meet and those we're talking to, and that kind of synergistic energy exchange that we have between each other and the opportunities that that produces for a beautiful dance, really. I would recommend everyone to go off and learn how to tango. It's a beautiful
It sounded
dance.
like the way you're describing it.
Lovely.
I think we might try that one out. Because I love dance. I mean, I love dance anyway, and I just think that everybody should dance. People ever come to see me and they say, you know, they're a little bit stressed or they're, you know, struggling and stuff, I always say go 5 rhythms. Because that idea of ecstatic dance and just letting yourself go, to, you know, with no judgment, like we said at the beginning of the conversation, just nobody watching, you know, it's not about going out on a night out and drinking and, you know, it's just turn up, you know, and just nobody's watching, young, old, and everybody just dances to the rhythm of whatever you want, you know. Somebody might just be doing that all night and that's fine, you know, and somebody else might be going, you know, doing their thing. And I think there's a real, well, we've done that since the early day, right? You know, dancing, tribal drums, you know, whichever way you look at it, it's just that, like, really getting the energy and bringing that through, which in some aspects of our society today, we've lost, a lot of people have lost that, you know, because, you know, it's to go into the work, come home from the work tired, sit down, you know. Not everybody's thinking, I'm going to come home from work today. Or imagine if every corporation at the end of the day, it's like, you know, forget 5:30. It's like 5 o'clock. Right, well, 5 o'clock's dance off day. Do you know what I mean? Wouldn't it be awesome? Just 5 till 5:30. What do you do at the office? We dance, and everyone's like, "Thanks for today, guys." You know, music comes on, computers shut down naturally, and then there's just like a little dance. You know, that would be awesome. People would leave there, wouldn't they? Just go into the tubes or go wherever they're on their journey home, thinking, man, that was cool. We danced and celebrated what we did in the day together. We shut off, we had some fun, and now I'm going home to have a nice evening of, you know, food or with my partner or whatever. And it was just those little things sometimes, real simple acts of loving kindness, isn't it? Personal loving kindness that can that we so often miss. You know, we so often miss those little. We watched the film yesterday, and I know you've probably done this, but you know, it was about Ayurveda, and in one of the things they said is one of the simple things is laughter. People like laugh, and I know there's laughter yoga out there now. And we were watching this video, and there's these Indian women, like, you know, different ages, but there's a couple of real old guys, and they were going wild, like, you know, and you can't help but like watch it and just start laughing. It just warms your whole body, and then the audience all started laughing as well. There was about I don't know, 12 or 14 of us watching this film called The Art of Being, and simple acts of loving kindness. First here as well, and then, you know, out into the big picture. Did you do that?
Sorry, I think I might have.
What did you do?
I think I lost
Polly's causing trouble.
Loss of my tea down the side of my
Okay, that's all right.
But it was very little.
That's all right.
It was very little.
We won't tell her. It's out now. You've publicised it. What am I going to say to the people? They said, "Did you spill tea?" I say, "No." They say, "We watched the film back." Polly's right. We're authentic. We can't lie. We don't lie. Transparent communication. Sorry, guys. There's tea down there.
So laughter's a great thing.
Laughter's an amazing thing,
I love Billy Connolly. I think he's hilarious. He laughs at his own jokes before he's even told the joke, and everyone ends up laughing with him as well.
Even if it's not funny.
Because he's just laughing.
Have you seen him live?
I haven't. I met him as a kid. He used to live very close to where I grew up in Stirlingshire, and he's the same age as my mother. And anyway, I remember as a kid bumping into him and Mum asking him about his banana boots that he used to wear, and him laughing uproariously at this, which is amazing because he must have heard jokes about his banana boots many times. But he's a man with such a big heart and a big personality. You know, it's I love people like that.
And he's very much he's very
a hero of mine.
He is no, it's nice, but he's also very much a speaker of the earth. You know, he has. I know he's.
He cares.
He really cares. You know,
absolutely.
In some of his jokes and messages and so on, he's a big. So he's a good hero to have. Not that, you know, everyone has to just love the earth, otherwise not good heroes. No, but you know, he's nice. And also, you know, I was watching a documentary on cancer.
Yes.
And actually, one of the things they shared in there that when you're disease, whether it's cancer or anything else, watch
funny movies.
Funny movies. Yeah, watch funny movies. You know, get them on and put them on, because instantly the cells in the body are transmuted, and there's a good vibe going on. Yeah. You know, so just get the comedy on, get the Billy Connolly on, and just laugh.
I completely agree with this. 7-8 years ago, I was in hospital with a burst cyst on my fallopian tube, and after the operation, I was high on morphine. It was great, but I watched. I couldn't sleep. I still had a lot of pain coming through, and I just watched Billy Connolly back to back, and just had to muffle myself against this pillow. And in fact, I was even more pain laughing than I was from the operation. Awesome. But it was coming from a completely different place, and it was amazing. I recovered very fast. I'm sure because of Billy Connolly. I love that. I hope he watches this talk. Not only is he your hero, he's helped you heal. Yeah. It was great.
I love that story. Awesome. Yeah, and I, again, the power of the simple. Yeah. We, sometimes we get so complicated and so worked up. We need this or we need that. We need this drug or that drug, and actually, sometimes we need a hug. Yeah, a good hug. That one of them loving hugs, and a motherly loving hug. Or fatherly. I always use the term motherly, and laughter. Yes. Yeah. Good sleep. It's always they mentioned that yesterday as well. Just real nice sleep, not the damn alarm going off. Just a rested sleep,
Absolutely.
Or in the afternoon, in the afternoon when you have an afternoon nap, them ones just like real, just nice deep sleep. Just little things like water, healing water, the healing qualities of water. Everyone goes out and drinks coffee, and so just drink a bit more water. Simple things, and I think that's what I took from that film yesterday as well, is that, nature has it all. It's all out there. That's what Ayurveda was talking about. The essence of that is that, the herbs and the cowpat. They do stuff with like cowpat and mud and it's just the earth. Yeah. It's just, and I mean that's my friend Kevin is. I know you may. I always say his second name wrong, but he's a permaculture lover. Kevin Mascarenhas. Thank you so much.
That's a great surname.
Kevin Mascarenhas. And he definitely knows of you anyway, and he is like, permaculture, life design, land design, and so on. And he's so passionate about it, and he did a little hour and a half slot at an event I did, to bring in that awareness. And just in the little hour and a half, I was so, that mind open to like, wow, because you hear permaculture, and again, it's a new language. Nobody really knows what it's about. And when you break it down and look at it, you're like, wow, this is so amazing and simple. So, I love that. Wonderful. Could talk to you all day. Go around, talk about the whole of life. I know we're sort of coming to a little bit of a close, but is there, is there anything that you would like to share that comes up for you now? You shared some wonderful, truths there today, and just how that we can really mould ourselves as a new Earth citizen, which is one of the things I love, and I really I find that so rich. And you're out there doing that, and we're doing our thing. But is there anything else that you feel that these videos go out to many people and around the world, as all that's another beautiful thing, isn't it? That actually now we can create this, and and that's what you're saying about connection, isn't it? Like the world is like so much more of a family. Yes. What the internet? But anyway, I love that.
It's fantastic. This whole idea of sovereignty of nations and land borders is dissolving as well, because of the internet and Facebook and our ability to actually in real time be able to reach out to people right across the world, or even to hear or read or watch something far later on, but it's still carrying that energy through. It's visible through film, through uploading on YouTube. And this is the wonder of it, that more and more people are just taking it upon themselves to get out there and put stuff up and engage in, it's kind of like a world cafe conversation that's happening online. and all around us as well.
Yeah.
It's very special.
It is very special,
Yeah.
you know. It can be overwhelming sometimes. I know for people watching it, sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming from a place of like so much information. But I find if you just find your own space within that, everything sort of shows itself. And there's some amazing, like you say, just people sharing their vulnerabilities and how they feel, and you know, and there's some beautiful, beautiful content coming through. Yeah. And I do love. I know you've done a talk on there, but I really do have to always share this with the people that watch these conversations, but TED.com. You know, TED.com for me is, you know, it's very much I mean, that's just transformational talk after talk on there, you know. It's got that, you know, I really admire and am inspired by them guys. You know, I don't even know who created it, but I know that TED Talks are just, you know, they're just so awesome. Chris
Anderson's the guy behind it.
Chris Anderson, okay.
And he did a remarkable thing by open sourcing it. So getting those talks out there, and also, you know, being brave enough to get talks out there about those who are really kind of breaking ground in what they say and they do. TED, I'm sure, has its own kind of threshold of what it sees as being innovative ideas. Not everything is acceptable, I suspect, but they act as a wonderful bridge. And that is fantastic in its own right. I do see that TED has the potential to not only take big ideas that are worth sharing out into the world, but also to engage the world in a critical narrative for the new world. And, you know, in a way, it's about TED daring to be great as well.
I like that.
This is very important.
I like that.
Because as the new world emerges, there are new ways of thinking and doing that can sometimes seem a bit kind of left field and big, you know, sometimes just too big thinking. So it's about them doing to be great, to engage on the really big ideas, and not shying away through fear of others challenging them on them. Because, you know, if it is a really big idea, it will be controversial.
Yeah.
Big ideas always court controversy. And to put trust and to give the platform to those big ideas, even if they aren't particularly what they believe in, by actually giving that platform to say this is part of the new world narrative. You know, some will come, some will go, without a doubt. But it's allowing that platform to happen. That's a daring to be great in its own right.
I love that. Daring to be great. That's a beautiful. I think that's a beautiful place to end. And it's that open space again. Yeah. Where that daring to be great can come through, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Ah, I've got tingles up my neck. No, nobody's touching me behind there either. It's definitely a beautiful to share this time in space with you.
Oh, well, thank you.
And I always hug the wonderful people that sit with me on the sofa, so thank you so much.
No, thank you, Simon.
Yeah.
Absolute delight.
Thank you for sharing your love and your truth and just doing everything you do. You're an inspiration to me. And to everybody watching, I just want to say, dare to be great, become an Earth citizen, believe in the magnitude of what can unfold when you just say yes to the unknown. And please do explore the links that I put at the bottom of all the magic that Polly's creating and bringing to the world, and just continue to have these wonderful conversations, guys. And sending you love, big love, and see you again soon. Take care.